Hello. I read like 35 books this year, and I'm gonna tell you guys what I think of every single one. Okay, here we are. The books. I'm also just focusing on books that I read like as part of my hobby, not like books that I had to read for school or anything. And I'm also not including any like self-help kind of books either. Okay, with that being said, first thing I read this year was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I rated this a 2, but I think I kind of changed it to, or I think I rated this a 3, but I ended up changing it to like a 2.5. Some of my ratings on Goodreads, I changed them, but that's annoying because then it like reorders the book. So I keep actually like my actual thoughts in my Notion. I don't know what I originally rated this book, but let's just erase whatever I have said in the past. And I'm now officially giving this book, I think like a 2.5. It was fine. I remember this took me a really long time to get into. I read this in June. Also, I didn't start my reading journey until June really of this year, where I like read consistently each month. So I didn't really have anything to compare it to. It was just okay. The story was okay. I would recommend it because I do think people will probably like it more than I did. Just wasn't like anything that wowed me. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six and I rated this 5 stars. I am obsessed with this entire story. Playlist on Spotify, also obsessed with. The TV show, also obsessed with. I want to reread this actually in 2024 and annotate it because I honestly think this is one of my favorite stories of all time. The characters are so well developed and you just genuinely love and root for all of them. And even the mistakes that they make, you just feel for them. I love this book. This entire Daisy Jones and the Six, everything that they do with this, I love it. If I probably would recommend any book out of this entire video, it would probably be this one. I love it so much. I just can't even get over it. And I read Magnolia Parks. The covers of these are beautiful. Ignore the tabs. Okay, it was my first time trying to tab a book and honestly kind of failed because I was like, what exactly am I supposed to be tabbing? And I don't know, I think I ended up tabbing like really sweet parts of the book, but I didn't, again, necessarily like love this that much. I think that it was a good story, but also remember, I didn't have much to compare it to. This was only the 3rd book that I read this year, so I wasn't really sure what the vibe was. I did rate this 3 stars, and I would recommend it because I do think people would like it. It's like Gossip Girl vibes. Then I read Too Late, and this, I don't need to have read a million other books to know that this was not a good book. I rated this 1 star. I would rate it 0 if I could. I did not like anything about this book. I don't know. I got tricked into buying this, I feel like, because at Target it was like in the new section, but this is actually a book that Colleen Hoover had already written and I guess like republished with some of the parts changed. So they put it in like the new section at Target. I don't consider that a proper new release. And I wish I would have known that because I don't think I would have bought it, but I'm glad I read it. It's actually a pretty like thick book. It was 384 pages. It was just really cringy to me. Very like try hard, trying to be like this bad boy, saves the girl. I just did not like it at all. Then I read Fourth Wing, and I think that Fourth Wing is really the thing that jump-started me really loving reading because I read significantly more books after I read this and I read them a lot faster. I rated this 5 stars. I think that if you're new to fantasy or haven't read fantasy in a really long time, you would absolutely eat this up. I loved it. I loved the banter. I thought it was really funny, really witty. And again, this being like what, my 5th book that I read this year, I really loved it. Had nothing bad to say about it, thought it was great. Also got the limited edition version on Amazon with the sprayed edges, which is like fun when you're a new reader, like seeing all the like limited edition, sprayed edge. Like I did not know sprayed edges was even a thing before coming to BookTube, so that's pretty cool. Then I read The Grace Year on my Kindle, and I also really loved that. I think I would rate that 5 stars, honestly. Probably a 4, actually, probably a 4, but I recommend it. I think that people should read it. It's like dystopian. The women basically have like magic that develops by the time they're 16 and they're like sent away to the wilderness, like the forest, to basically get rid of their magic, but that happens through various different ways. And it is like ruthless. It's crazy, it's wild, but it's like such a fun read. It also has a little bit of a deeper meaning because what they consider magic, I don't want to spoil it because it's actually like a really fun read, but I won't spoil it. I can't say anything else, but I think you should read it because I think people would really like it. It's also YA, so it's pretty easy to read, pretty quick. And I read The Summer of Broken Rules, and I think this was like my first palette cleanser type romance book, and I really love this. I believe this one has no spice, and it was just such a sweet story. I felt like I was with the family. They're attending a wedding at Martha's Vineyard, and their entire family goes. They all like play this game, and they like, as you're reading it, they're playing the game, and it's so fun. It's just like really comforting, non-toxic family vacation vibes, and I love that. And I read Divine Rivals. This cover, also joined BookTube and discovered like you can buy different covers from like the UK, Germany and stuff like that, because they all get published with different covers, and I think that's really cool and really special. So I try to like look at all the covers and decide which one I want and then place an order for that specific one. And this was, I don't know which one this was. I think this is the UK version. I rated this, I think like 3 stars originally, then I moved it to 4, but honestly, I'm kind of close to rating it also a 5. I don't know, I'm stuck somewhere between like a 4, 4.5. I think, because I read this after Fourth Wing, after the Grace Year, and those were both really high stakes. And then I went to this, which is a little bit more of like a softer romance, and I think that I wanted something that like still had that high stakes, because Fourth Wing and the Grace Year put me into like a reading slump, and I couldn't get into anything that I was trying to read. So this was the book that I read after that, and I feel like because it wasn't as high stakes, I rated it lower, and that's my fault. Honestly, I think I would rate this like a 4.5. It's such a sweet story. It's not necessarily non-spice. I think there's like one scene, fantasy romance, but not fantasy with like dragons and stuff like that. There is this like magic system, and I don't know, I just thought it was a really good book actually, and I want to reread this in 2024 with like a fresh perspective, because I actually think this has the potential to be like one of my favorite books of all time. So 100%, 10 out of 10 recommend this. Then I think I either read The Love Hypothesis or Love Theoretically. I can't remember which one I read first, but we're just gonna stick with The Love Hypothesis first. And I rated this 5 stars. I love Ali Hazelwood's writing. I always say I feel like it really clicks in my brain, and it's so comforting to read. I feel like she just describes things and I understand exactly what she means, exactly what she's saying. I think that these are like silly little giggly, kicking your feet romance books. They are quite spicy. Ali Hazelwood does write pretty spicy. Not, I mean, like, in my opinion, not anything crazy, but I guess that's up to like your own interpretation. You definitely could Google and like see what the spice scenes are, what pages they're on. I rated this 5 stars. I thought it was so cute. I was giggling. I had a good time reading it. 5 stars just based on the writing, in my opinion, is really good. And it's not anything deep, but I didn't read it for it to be anything deep, you know what I mean? It's just like a fun little squealing romance, and 5 stars for the vibes. Then I started a book club, and the book we read was Happy Place. So I read it, and I really had a hard time getting into this. I rated it 2 stars. I wish, you could see, I thought it was gonna be good. I started tabbing it, see this measly little tab? I was done after that. I was like, what am I reading? I can't get into it. It was so incredibly boring, painfully boring. I think I thought that Happy Place was gonna be something else. This is actually kind of a sad book with like a happier ending, but I thought it was gonna be like summer vibes, like we're on the top of the world, we feel so good. I thought it was gonna be that, but it's actually like this really heart-wrenching story. There's fake dating, forced proximity. I think my main thing is I didn't really resonate with the story that much, so it was hard for me to get into it. But I think that it has a lot of key takeaways, because a lot of the people in the book club actually really loved this and rated it higher than I did. So I would still recommend people read it. Like, don't listen to my rating. I think I just didn't resonate with like the main messages that Emily Henry was trying to put in the book. I just wasn't vibing with it that much. So yeah. And I read Daisy Hates because I needed some action. I liked this more than Magnolia Parks. This is the second book in the Magnolia Parks series, if you didn't know. These covers are really cool. I think I would rate this probably like a 3.5. I did like the story a lot more than Magnolia's story. I think Daisy Hates just has more, the problems that she faces, I think I resonate with more, understand more, her family dynamic, and so I really like that. There's a lot of romance in here. It's, again, like Gossip Girl vibes, but this one, Daisy Hates, is like, what do you call that? Like drug lord vibes, like that kind of vibe, like Sons of Anarchy, if you've ever watched that. That's kind of like what I picture when I read this one. Magnolia Parks is more like Gossip Girl vibes. Oh, then I read The Last Word by Taylor Adams on my Kindle. I thought that was really, really interesting because essentially this Kindle reader has left a bad review for an ebook that they read, and then the author sees it and basically like goes for them, tries to attack them and come after them. And I thought that was a really interesting premise. The entire book takes place in one, like basically one room the entire time. So for some parts I was kind of like, okay, I feel like I was rereading kind of the same thing over and over again. I rated it like a solid 3 stars. I love the idea, the execution, I don't know. I wasn't really obsessed with the execution. So 3 stars. I would still recommend because it's just such an interesting premise, and if you read, you're just like, oh my gosh, how do these authors feel when like I rate their book a 1-2 star? Like they, you know, it kind of makes you think. So anyway, 3 stars. Okay, and then I read In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros because I loved Fourth Wing so much by Rebecca Yarros that I was like, I want to see like her earlier work and like what that was like. I need to take the sticker off of here. And I love this book. I rated this a 4 stars. It's a romance and they get in a plane crash, fall in love, but then don't see each other for a long time and then see each other again. And you kind of get their entire like backstory. And that was a lot of fun. I actually read this while I was flying and it was good vibes all around. I love this, 4 stars. I love the story so much, honestly. I would definitely reread this. I actually read it on my Kindle and then went and bought a paperback version because I want to reread it and I want it like in my hands as I read it so I can annotate it and stuff. Like I liked it that much. I thought it was like a shockingly good book. I did not think I was gonna like it, but I did. And I can't wait to read her other stuff too. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. I still have all these left. Thankfully, the next books are a little trilogy that I read. This is the Caraval series. And basically they're playing this like carnival. I don't know why I wanted to say like carnival, but they're playing in these games and there's Master, Legend. So you have Caraval, Legendary, and then Finale. And I would 100% recommend you read these. I love these so much. This is a YA fantasy series and they're so easy to read. They're so fun, no spice, just good old games, you know? Part of the series, there's like some fake dating, but then also as a part of the game, you don't know what's real and what's fake. So that's really fun as you're reading it because some things will happen and you're like, wait, is that actually happening? Are they just imagining it? And it's kind of fun to try to figure out who is who, what's real, what's not. My ratings for these, I rated Caraval 4 stars. That was my favorite book out of the entire series. Legendary and Finale, I both rated 3 stars each. Legendary was really hard for me to get through, honestly, but a lot of people like Legendary the most. Then Finale, I really did like. I think I'd probably even rate this like a 3.5. Either way, I would say that this is like a solid 4-star series just in general, and I would recommend it because I think people would really like it. The covers are also really, really pretty. I needed some action, so I read The Housemaid by Freida McFadden because I've been wanting to read something from her. She's a really popular thriller author, and I'm getting hot, hold on. And I rated this 3 stars. This was definitely like, I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Basically, a housemaid is hired and then is forced to sleep in a room where there's only a lock on the outside. And then the married couple, like the husband, yeah, there's some things going on. Very interesting, plot twisty, great. I thought it was interesting, 3 stars. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood is like an auto-buy author for me because I loved this and The Love Hypothesis so much. This is 5 stars for me as well. Kicking, Giggling, I loved this one. I probably, oh my gosh, it's really hard to say which one I liked more. Honestly, I can't say, but this one, I love this. Love this so much, 5 stars, definitely recommend. And for some reason I read ACOTAR. Actually, I did a 24-hour readathon reading challenge and I read ACOTAR in it, and I rated this like 4.5. I think as I continue to read the series, my ratings might change a little bit. Because I read this as part of my readathon, I think that my brain was a little bit like, what is happening? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the beast is in love with the human girl. Are they human? I honestly don't know. I need to look up like fan art because I'm like, what am I supposed to picture when I'm reading this? Very strange. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I think about this yet. And I read it in November, so I don't know. I did like it. I did like it. I did like it. I can see why people like it. I don't know. I need to read the rest of the series. Then I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is just my favorite author of this entire year. I'm so happy that I decided to read Daisy Jones and the Six because her writing is everything to me, her stories. I hope that this is coming out as like a show or something, or maybe it already is, but I need a million more books from her. Like in 2024, I want to read a lot more of her books. I have some of them. Her writing just resonates with me so much. She does such a good job of writing entertaining stories that also have so many life lessons and deeper meanings weaved into it. And 5 stars. I just loved this story so much. Then I read The Great Gatsby. I really wanted to read like a classic. 5 stars, loved it. Think everybody should read it. I know we had to read it like in high school and stuff, but a reread is definitely worth it. I also love this royal blue cover. It's so pretty. I love this book. I love this story. I definitely can just see me reading it randomly throughout the years to come. So many beautiful like quotes in this book, and I loved it so much. I also watched the movie after I read it, and it was just the perfect little pairing. Then I read Rebecca, which if you follow me on TikTok, you know, this is my first ever 6-star read. I tabbed this like the most. Now I I understand why people tab, and in my opinion, it's for books like this. This story, it's a romantic suspense by Daphne du Maurier. This was written in like 1938. Okay, this is another author. I want to try reading something else from. I don't know if I just happened to get like a really good book from her or what. This is one of those books that I didn't get from like a TikTok recommendation or anything like that. Okay, it's romantic suspense, so you get that like what's gonna happen next. You're like on your toes the entire time. There's love, there's mystery, there's death. Also, there's not really any spice in this at all, I don't think. I don't think there's any spice in this, so everybody should read this. I thought it was so good. I don't know. If you read it, let me know what you thought. Almost done. Then I read The Hunger Games. I rated this 4 stars, but like honestly, I kind of have to give it 5 because it's so iconic. The beginning was a little bit slower than I remember it being just because they're still in their districts. And then once they get to the games, it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? And I really enjoyed it. Great show, great movie, great book, 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Like you gotta read it, you know. It was also my second or third time reading Hunger Games, so maybe I'm kind of like burnt out on it for a second. And then Iron Flame came out, another limited edition. Sprayed Edges, I love her. 3 stars. It was just a little bit hard for me to get into this. I thought it was really boring, honestly, but it is part of a series, so I can't judge it the same way I would judge a standalone book, so that's why I would rate it 3 stars, because it was a little bit hard, but I also understand she has to build the world, you know, like we can't always be fighting, otherwise it's just like we're rereading the same fight over and over again, or we're like rereading the dragons doing the same thing over and over again. Oh, I totally forgot. I also read None of This Is True on my Kindle by Lisa Jewell. It's my first Lisa Jewell novel, and she's also a really popular mystery author. And I really liked that one. I rated that 3 stars, and it's basically about these girls that like run into each other at a dinner that they're having, like an anniversary dinner, and like there's 2 separate couples, and one of them has a podcast, and the other girl becomes like obsessed with her, and it's like really spooky, really scary, really interesting, and I liked it. It was 3 stars. Oh, then I also read the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy, and I loved those books. First book I rated 4 stars. The second book I rated 2. I don't remember why, honestly. I probably just thought it was hard to read. And then the third book I rated 5 stars. I loved the last book the most. Then I read The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, and this is like a collection of short stories, and I honestly think that everyone should read this. Like it's so it's just so true. You know, it's stories about Black culture, Black church culture, what it's really like inside the church and outside the church, like whether you grew up in a religious home or not. I love this. I feel like even if you're not Black, you would benefit from reading this because you actually get a look into what it's like for some Black people. And I love this. Like, I will recommend this to everybody. And I have my DNFs for the year. Murder in the Family. No, don't. This is supposed to be like a real life Clue, where as you're reading it, you're kind of playing the game Clue and trying to, like, you're supposed to be able to solve the mystery alongside them, but it is so confusing. There are so many characters, so many people. Like, I didn't want to have to bust out a whiteboard in order to like read this book. It's so slow. And then I read the last like chapter or whatever to figure out what ends up happening. And it's so anticlimactic in my opinion. It was a DNF. I did not like that book at all. Then I read Wreck the Halls, another DNF. I did not like this at all. It's so incredibly slow. I feel like I had read 130 pages and basically just the same thing happening over and over and over again. Did not like it. Nope. Then we read One True Loves for our book club, and everybody loved this. Like, we all loved it, thought it was great. There's like a mix between like 4-star reviews, 5-star reviews. I think I rated this 4. I really liked it. Essentially, she has to choose between, and this is not a spoiler because it says it in the first line, she ends up having to choose between her husband, who she thought was dead, who actually is like still alive and came back, or her new fiance that she got engaged to while she thought her husband was dead. And it's kind of like walking through the grief and also like, who is she gonna choose? Really, really interesting, fun read. Also will make you sob cry because it is like so real. Another hit by Miss Taylor Jenkins Reid, my favorite author of the year. What can I say? And then on my Kindle right now, I'm reading Mr. Fixer-Upper, and I have like 30 pages left. And that one's a really cute, funny, giggly little romance. It's by Lucy Score. I want to read The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score, but I didn't realize it's actually a duology and you're supposed to read Mr. Fixer-Upper before you read The Christmas Fix. So that was my plan. I have only like a few more days left in December, so I don't know if I will be able to read The Christmas Fix in time, but I'm really sad about it because I wanted to get to it, but I'm in a little bit of like a reading, not a slump, but just kind of like in a pause as the new year approaches. Anyway, Mr. Fixer-Upper, I feel like I'm probably gonna rate it 4 stars, which just seems high for a silly, giggly little romance, but I honestly really just enjoyed the story. It's just all vibes. It's like a good palate cleanser. I'm reading on my Kindle. It's just a good experience. So I'd rate that one 4 stars. And that's all. That's every book well, almost every book I read this year, but the ones that you guys probably care about, which are all the fiction ones. This was fun. I can't wait to see how many I read next year. I think my reading goal for next year is 100 books because I read 30 from like August to December. So I feel like I could probably read a lot more. I also know what I like now, so hopefully there will be no reading slumps. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Whether I read 50 books, 100 books, 20 books next year, I'm loving this new hobby. I'm eating it up. The books are for the girlies. Okay, anyway, thanks for watching. Love you guys so much.